Hey guys, welcome back to the series called All You Need to Know About Modifiers, right? And today we're gonna go ahead and look at the Bevel modifier. Uh, I'll take you through each and every option that are available in there. There might be a few that I end up skipping, but that's only because I don't know what they do. And maybe I'll make an additional video in the future if once I get to know the use of those functions, right? But I'll call out the ones that I'm actually skipping. So to start with, why don't we open a new project? So let's go new general and don't save. Right, so we get this default cube here. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and delete the light and the camera because we don't need it for this one. Now, before we go ahead and discuss what is a bevel modifier, I want to tell you what exactly is a bevel tool, right? So bevel tool is something that you can find over here once you go into the edit mode by just clicking on tab or just selecting edit mode over here. Can you see this? This is called a bevel tool. So what's the use of a bevel tool? Now, bevel tool basically splits a vertex, or an edge into two or more sections, right? So let me demonstrate. So I selected this vertex here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and pull it back, right? So let me just do this. Not sure why it's not happening. So okay, let me show it to you on an edge. Basically, this is what it does. It splits one edge into two. You can increase the number of splits that is happening just by clicking on this dialog box that appears over here. As you can see, if you the number of cuts that you add is, it makes it that much smoother, right? So if you just have one, it's flat. You add more, and then it just keeps getting curvy and curvy. So that's basically the primary function of a bevel tool is. And now if again, so like I was saying that it can also do things on vertices, right? So if you switch on vertices here, can you see it's splitting that one vertices into these many different sections depending on the amount of segments that you add here, right? So that's how it's gonna be basically go ahead and do things. Now that's the primary function of the bevel tool, right? But if this is what bevel tool does, then what does the bevel modifier does? So a bevel modifier, if you would have seen the video for me introduction that I made for about introduction to modifiers, right? I told that modifiers are here just to make your life easier. So basically what a bevel tool can do is that it can apply a bevel to all the edges that are available in your object in one go. Now if you go back and try doing that using that bevel tool, it will just take you really long time, especially if you have a complex object with too many edges, right? So that is what a bevel tool can help you with. The first function is just to smooth out the edges and just to make sure that you don't have those hard edges in there. Now again, it also, so the higher you go with your segment, the smoother your edge is going to be, right? So basically, as soon as you add your bevel tool, you can see there are a few options over here. This is the number of segments. This is how you control the number of segments. It's like it calls out its segments. Now again, you can apply it either on the edges or on the vertices. Now it's applying the same way as we saw before. So that's what the basic function of this two tabs are, right? So if you can switch it to either vertices or edges. Now what is the width type? Now width type is basically the amount of bevel that you're going to provide or that you are going to apply to your object. Right now there are different options here, and each option just give you a different kind of control over the amount of bevel that you're going to provide. So basically, if you just click on offset, it just offsets everything from that edge right towards the next edge, right? So as you can see, it's just offsetting things, and if I just reduce the number, you can see it better. And yeah, the more distance that you increase, the bigger the bevel would be, right? So Offset does that. Width is just basically gonna go ahead and add the amount of bevel depending on the width that you're defining here, right? So it's a little bit more constant as compared to offset. So basically offset is gonna go ahead and offset it depending on the distance between the two edges, right? Whereas the width is just more constant. Whereas depth does the same thing. Instead of width, it works with the depth. uh, Percentage, here you can just define the percentage that you want to apply your bevel. So this gives you a little bit more control if you want to go lower on your bevels, right? So if you just want to apply a very slight bevel over here, or a very slight uh, split, you can just simply use the percentage option, and then go ahead and utilize this, right? So, and then the last one is absolute. Now what does absolute do? Absolute is basically absolute value. So what I mean by that is that it will go ahead and apply bevel depending on the size that you're defining here. So if I'm saying 0.6 meters, the bevel over here will always be 0.6 meters. Like for example, if I, so currently my object size is 2 meters, as you can see here, right? So if I reduce the size and I go ahead and apply scale, as you can see that it's already it's still applying it for 0.6 meters instead of just that, but the object size is now 0.8 meters, so the size of the bevel increased. Now I'm applying it for 0.3 meters, sorry, okay, 0.3 meters. Now I increase the size of my object back to 1.6 meters. Now as you can see that the bevel amount reduced right as soon as I applied scale. So it's just basically a constant way to apply bevel onto your object. So these are the different options that you can select here. Now again, mostly almost everyone uses the offset option because it's more dynamic, so including me, so I go with that. But again, you can change the option depending on your needs, right? So that's the basic idea about these options over here. Now the amount is again basically the amount of bevel that you're applying, and the segments, like I said it already, is the amount of smoothness that you want to give your bevels, right? So next, moving on to limit method. So what is a limit method? Limit method is like the name suggests, it limits where your bevel is getting applied, right? So if you keep it to none, it's gonna go ahead and apply it to every edge that is there in your object. If you keep it to angle, it's gonna go ahead and apply it to every every edge that is greater than 30 degrees. Let me demonstrate, right? So if I go ahead and move this over here, right? So now as you can see that this edge is so it's going ahead and applying bevel to everything. Now if I reduce it to about 10 degrees, because that's the distance between these two, right? So that's the amount of angle that we're getting over here. So angle is defined by this, like this is the x-axis and this is the I think y-axis, and this is the angle between that, right? So let me show you. Basically this is what how the angle is getting defined here. So if we come down, like as you can see, if I increase it more than 20 degrees, the bevel is no longer getting applied on this edge, and that's because the angle of your angle over here of your edge is defining where the bevel is getting applied, right? So basically it's this one's lesser, this one's about 20 degrees, so we have to move it at least to 20 degrees or lower. So that's how you can actually utilize this. Now the second option that we have is weight. Now what is weight? So weight is you can call it as the bevel weight, right? And this gives you a little bit more control over how you're gonna apply bevel on your object. Now how does this work? So let's go to the edit mode and let's select this edge, right? Now all you have to do is press N. Okay, so this transform window pops up, and then can you see this edge data? here you can see there is an option called bevel weight, right? So make sure you're selecting weight option here, and over here, if you drag it up, the more weight that you add, the more bevel it's gonna apply, right? And then you can control, obviously control the size of the bevel just with the amount. But basically, the lesser the weight, the lesser the bevel is. The higher the weight, the more the bevel is gonna get applied over here. Okay. And if you want to just select a vertice and increase this as well, so this gets applied to a vertices instead of an edge, right? So the vertices data is for vertices, and edge data is for edges. So basically that's how the bevel weight works. Now if like, let me give you another example, right? If I want to select two edges, and those are the only two edges that I want to bevel, the rest should be how it is. So I'll just go ahead and apply bevel weight to those two edges, and if you can see, the rest are still straight, right? So this just gives me a little bit more control on how I use bevels with a bevel modifier. Now the next thing that I can use here is the vertex group. Now what does a vertex group do? So currently it's getting applied to everything. We don't want that, but so what you can do is you can basically select a group of vertices. So come to this option here, and that is object data properties, right? And you can see this option that says vertex groups over here, right? So how to create a vertex group? Do that, it's really simple. Select the vertices that you actually want to be a part of your vertex group. So I just want these four. I'll select that, and I'll hit this plus sign over here, and a group gets created. I can just name it whatever, and just click on assign. Now as soon as you do that, these four vertices are a part of this group now. So I can go back to my bevel modifier and select these vertices, and now as you can see that the bevel is only getting applied to these four vertices and not anywhere else. So that's a little bit higher level of control on applying bevel on your on your object, right? So that's pretty much what's it for these options here. Now we're going to move on to profile. Now what is a profile? Profile basically defines if you're applying bevel outwards or inwards. Let me show you that. So basically, can you see this shape over here? Now if I drag it outwards, so you can see the bevel is moving outwards, right? Now if I drag it lesser than 0.5, can you see your bevel? Let me actually move to meta cap and activate all of these so that you can see it better. Right, so with this you can just simply define if it moves outward or inwards, right? Pretty cool, right? So yeah, this is something that is gonna help you create interesting looking shapes without very little effort. Now there is super ellipse option, and then there is a custom option. Now what does a custom option do? A custom option is basically going to enable you to be able to go ahead and define which bevel goes outwards and which one goes inwards, like this. For example, if I create a shape like this over here, and let me just increase the amount, can you see that there are these kind of edges that are getting created? And that's because I am moving the section over here and just basically defining how my bevel is going to look like, right? So this is pretty interesting, and I just learned about it recently. So it's very awesome to experiment with, right? And there are a few presets over here as well that you can simply use to go ahead and try it out. Like for example, there is a preset of steps. When you see that, it automatically goes ahead and creates a shape like steps over here for your bevel. Now the amount of segments that you add is the amount of steps that are going to get created, right? So that's a pretty cool option. You might want to go ahead and check it out. Now that's pretty much it for the profile section though. So let's move on to the next one, and that's geometry. Now mitter outer that you see here, I have no clue what this option does. I tried changing these, but nothing changes. So I have no clue, and once I figure it out, I'll probably create another video just to explain it to you guys. But I know what the inner does, right? So let me go ahead and first change it from a vertex group to an angle, so it's getting applied everywhere. So what does this do? Let me bring down the segment a little bit. Let's go 10. Okay. So if you change this inner from sharp to an arc, can you see it's adding an extra cut on your faces and just giving you an additional curve or an additional arc on your bevels. Now the spread, the more you increase it, the wider this curve's gonna get, and the lower you keep it, the smaller it's gonna be. So basically that's how you can control it. Now the next thing that you can actually go for is a grid fill or cutoff. So grid fill, basically all you can see here, these faces that are getting added, these are all what do you say, squares? I forget what we call them, but basically grid fill ensures that it adds those square kind of things. And this looks pretty ugly. Let me actually add another cube and demonstrate it again. So let's go back, Bevel Modifier. We're going to keep all of this same. Let's increase it to 10 and increase this a little bit. Now go back to profile. Okay, let's come back and click on arc, right? So the more you increase it, the more circular your edges are going to be. And grid fill and cutoff does basically this. So grid fill is actually going to fill in a grid here, and if you just say cutoff, it will just add 3 faces and just combine them with the center point, right? So you can choose the option depending on how you want your object to look like. So that's important. Now can you see these 2 checkboxes here? Out of these 2, I don't know what loop slides does, but I know what clamp overlay is. So if clamp overlay is checked, and if you increase it, can you see it automatically goes ahead and combines everything to a certain point, right? Now if I go back and uncheck clamp overlay, sorry, let me show you this. So basically keep it checked and increase it. Now no matter how high I go, so no matter even if I go 20 meters, there is nothing happening over here, right? Because what exactly it's doing is that it's clamping those edges together, and once they are really close to each other, it doesn't allow any more bevel offset to be added, right? It's just to make sure that your edges are not looking ugly. So that's the main purpose of being clamped. If you uncheck that, and if I increase it now, can you see that it's automatically, like, there is no control on it. You can add as many bevels as you want, and even though it looks pretty awesome, but sometimes it can just mess up your object, right? So you have to be a little bit more mindful about it. So that's the main purpose of clamp overlays. Now the last option over here is harden normal, seams sharp, and material index. Now what does harden normal do? So if you click on that, and if you go to your object data properties and go to normals and click on auto smooth, can you see it automatically smooths the edges on all of your on your entire object? And that's the purpose of that harden normal. So what it does is that it smooths out the hardened edges that are there in your object, right? For me, I like it can be really useful in some cases, but not in the specific one that we are looking at right now. So I'm just gonna uncheck that. Now seams and sharp are mainly related to UV editing, basically this piece here. So I'm gonna skip that piece because we are not, UV editing is actually whole another topic in itself, but it's basically, if you want to know, those who already know what is UV editing, it's basically to add seams and sharps in there, right? Now the next option that you see is material index. What does that do? So let's go to the material preview. Now as you can see that there is nothing here, so I'm going to add a new material and add a second material over here, and let's just give it a very dark looking material, right? And let's add a third material, and this one is actually going to be, let's say, an emission, right? So what does our material index do here? So right now it's currently at -1. If you change it to 0, it's gonna go ahead and take the material of the current object, which is the first one, right? Let's do metallic. So which is the first one. Now if you change the index to 1, it will go ahead and take the second material that's there in your in that object, right? And similarly, if you increase it to 2, it's going to take the third material. Now you can add as many materials over here as you want, and whatever index that you define here is what going to define the material that gets added to your bevels. Now this can be really helpful if you just want to give your bevel a separate look altogether, separate from what your object is. So yeah, you can use this option and go ahead and utilize it whenever you want to. So I think that's about it. I again don't know anything about what is face strength. I'll add it to the same video once I have more clue about this, right? But yeah, that's pretty much it that I can tell you about bevels. If I really hope that this video was helpful to you guys, and if it was, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like these, because this is an entire series and there are going to be more videos that are coming in about different modifiers, right? And currently I am targeting modifiers that are there in this generate option, so I'll probably be creating a video for each and every one of those, unless it's not relevant for modeling. So yeah, hope you guys do like this, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for hanging out so far.